Hi Sarah, I've looked over your lesson plan and here's my feedback. Um, so I see that you're working on use precise language and domain-specific vocabulary to inform about or explain the topic, all right? Pardon me. Um, while I went through this lesson plan though, you lost me a little bit in how you're having kids exercise this. Let me show you what I'm talking about, okay? Um, all right. So you have students will be able to select appropriate language and word choice in an expository writing piece, all right? Right up there, right up front, selecting appropriate language isn't the same as selecting jargon that belongs to a particular field of study, okay? And also, the evidence outcome is explicit to using precise language. And I did see that you got towards that in the end, kind of, but there's still a big disconnect, okay? So, one, they're supposed to use it. Two, you have them just selecting it as their objective, and selecting appropriate language is separate from selecting jargon. So, do you see I'm saying, like, you lost me a little bit in this disconnect here, okay? All right. So you choose three words and you write them up there and you explain to kids that, these words can be used in different ways. All right. Then you move them straight from this one example into take out the article you brought, find some words in there that would only be used for that specific topic. We got to stop right here because there's a problem, okay? If the kids chose an article that A, was indeed domain specific, B, used domain specific words and jargon as opposed to everyday language, C, which means they would have had to have access to a journal that used specific jargon, right? You have them working with newspaper clippings. Newspaper clippings typically are written for the general public and avoid using jargon in them. So I'm not quite sure that the kids will even find that. Here's the next problem. How are the kids supposed to know, like, what's the criteria that you want to establish for them for knowing whether a word belongs to a specific topic, in other words, it's jargon or not? You give the example that velocity might not be in a beauty article and acrylic might not be found in a history article. You're assuming that the kids know what the words velocity and acrylic are, and you also assume that they know why velocity belongs in a history article, which I would have thought that's more of a science word, and what acrylic is and why it wouldn't be in a history article, right? All you do is give them an example and then send them off to do an activity. We're missing the direct instruction here where you say there's a certain kind of criteria for each word. Pardon me. Think about how we looked at the difference between form words and function words, right? Form words are things like prepositions and conjunctions, right? The word and exists in every single industry and every single type of writing. It doesn't change meaning. Okay, but the word smog never existed before we had an industrialized nation. The word text as a verb didn't exist before we had cell phones to use it with. Things like that, okay? So you've got to give them some criteria for sorting out the words in the articles and being able to decide on their own if it belongs or if it doesn't. If you don't do that, what's going to happen is that you'll set the kids off. You'll say, here, I've given you this example, go look at your article. You are going to run around crazy because the kids are going to say, is this word count? Does this word count? Does this word count? And you'll be put on the spot every single time to explain to them and walk them through a question answer flow instead of giving them a question answer flow and a criterion up front. Okay, I want to ask you, does that make sense? And you're not sitting in front of me. That's ridiculous, okay? But then you have students coming up and volunteering to explain some of the words. Okay? I don't really know what the goal is between having students stand up and share those words with each other, so I would need to see a strategy behind that, and I would need to see some differentiation modification over here for students who don't feel comfortable doing that, okay? Now, here's your assessment. Once that list is created, please write a short piece of writing, either about math, science, or history, and where you explain whatever topic you choose to me. A, I don't know what topic they're choosing. B, is it supposed to be a topic that's specific to their nonfiction article? C, did you delineate that they have to choose a nonfiction article about math, science, or history? D, the chances of finding a nonfiction article about math for a 7th grader are very slim. They would have to go to specific journals to do those. You might be able to find something about science or history in a newspaper if you define science and history for them very broadly. Here's my final problem. I'm not sure that this is an accurate gauge of, an accurate assessment of their ability to use these words, right? Take a list of 5 words and write a paragraph. If you want them to write a paragraph, you need to back up and you need to cover paragraph structure with them. You need to explain topic sentence, make sure that they're all good on topic sentences and supporting data. And then you're going to get a bunch of paragraphs that are very weirdly formed because my goal is to use 5 words, not to write a paragraph, right? So this lesson plan needs work. You have to make sure that your objective is aligned to your evidence outcomes. You have to make sure that your direct instruction explains criteria to them, not just an example. And then you have to make sure that your assessment accurately aligns to your evidence outcome, and you have to make sure that you've prepared them for that assessment, not just ask them to do it. Okay? Let me know if you have any questions about that, all right? Thanks.